Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, modern American politics, and drifting. All right. So So you already know about Andrew Yang. You know about modern American politics. What's drifting, right? Well, drifting is when you get in a car and you're going to go somewhere, you get the car and you give it a vector, right? You give it a direction and give it magnitude, right? So you're heading from your home to your work. That might be a vector, right? Well, drifting is vector with style, okay? So when you drift a car, you are moving that car forward just the way you normally would, but first you are kicking out the rear end of the car, turning the front so that the rear end slides out, okay? And the front wheels are going forward. You have to turn the front wheels. So essentially, your car is moving forward at a high speed, but the car is sideways, right? And the wheels are spinning in a different direction than the car is moving. This is drifting, okay? This was mastered and shown to the world at a level no one else did by Drift King Kiyuchi Tsuchiya. Oh boy, I probably massacred that name, but he is absolutely the Drift King, right? And Tsuchiya, Drift King Tsuchiya, he really did this better than no one else. However, recently there have been 3 additional drifting masters that have really come into the spotlight. Ken Block is one from Gymkhana. He has a Unicorn, which is this like 1,400 horsepower Mustang, classic Mustang, that is one of the best drift machines ever built. And then Vaughn Geaton Jr., he also drifts Mustangs. Mustangs have come onto the drift scene pretty heavy. And then there is Arkady Sargratsev, and he is a Russian drifter who specifically drifts the Lada Riva. Okay, now drifting is really unusual. It is a really, really unusual activity, but it is getting bigger and bigger, and it's had a huge cultural and social impact, right? Drifting is big. It's big in the car scene, and basically there are a lot of associated suppliers that are connected to it. Now, it is my opinion that drifting is a talisman that contains wisdom about modern American politics, and that Andrew Yang should specifically study drifting. He should understand vehicle drifting, car drifting, specifically to understand modern American politics, because it is the perfect analogy for modern American politics, right? So one of the things that drifting does is it elevates, right? It actually elevates the performer, but with very little reason to do so, right? So, like, for instance, really Ken Block and Geaton and Vaughn Geaton Jr. are really widely heralded as celebrities, right? And they are. And really, much even beyond the car world, both of these guys are celebrities, right? And they are elevated, but it's kind of strange. Like, Mario Andretti, why was he elevated? He was a winner, right? Now, with drifting, there are drifting competitions, but it's not really the point, right? And the reality is, people acknowledge drifting, but it's not for winning. So what is it for, right? Well, a few things. One, it is visually stunning, right? It is absolutely visually stunning, and it is unabashedly cool, right? And the reason why we're talking about this today is anybody can take their car and go from point A to point B, right? But how many people can take their car and go from point A to point B while the car is while all the wheels on the car are pointed in a different direction than the car is moving, right? You're doing the same thing. You're moving the vehicle. You're going from point A to point B, right? But the reality is, one is visually stunning. One is unabashedly cool. Now, why would we need these things in American politics? The ubiquitous American camera, the ubiquitous American media. The American media puts the ubiquitous camera onto the scene, which means that if you are going to succeed in politics today, you must be unabashedly cool, and you must be visually stunning, right? You have to do something that looks and seems and is different, that looks cooler than what other people are doing. You're doing the same thing. You're going from point A to point B, but the difference is you're transforming that activity by making it unabashedly cool and making it visually stunning. And this, every single politician on the planet has to realize this. With every single American politician has to realize, because of the American media, because of the ubiquitous camera, right? You must be visually stunning, right? And you must be unabashedly cool. And I think that is why drifting is so important, right? And really today, just so you're aware, in the drift world, Ken Block and Vaughn Geaton Jr., nobody is better, right? Tsuchiya, his days are kind of passing away a little bit there. He's a little older now. And these guys are the main people on the scene, and they are connecting major suppliers to this, right? Now, there are three classic drift cars that Andrew Yang needs to learn about. Nissan Skyline. That is the super dopest Japanese JDM, Japanese domestic market vehicle that has ever been made. It was right there at the birth of drifting. Nissan Skyline really showed drifting to the world. It is the preeminent, most awesome drift machine ever built, near its genesis, near the start of right? The Mustang, we talked about that a little bit. The Mustang has become a major drift machine, right? A lot of people are really into Mustangs. The reason why is they're great sport cars at an accessible price. They are purely American, and people are really getting into drifting them, right? So it is a major one. And then the Lotta Riva. The Lotta Riva is an absolutely horrible block vehicle that comes out of Russia, just almost a pure trash vehicle, and especially compared to the Nissan. Oh my gosh, it hurts me to even mention the Lotta Riva in the same paragraph as a Nissan Skyline, which is just a pure joy to look at. The Lotta Riva is really almost it's drifted pretty much ironically, right? That's the best way to say it. But the reality is we have to talk about it, and the reason why is Russia is very into drifting. They really are, and they really do very much majorly. It actually affects specifically drifting is a major concern, and basically, Russia is part of the drift scene, right? And so is the Lotta Riva vehicle, right? So the reality is Andrew Yang will definitely need to learn all those vehicles. He's going to need to understand drifting. And the reason why is I really feel that drifting is a perfect talisman containing wisdom for modern American politics, right? Also, just like modern American politics, drifting has profit as a side effect, right? Nobody's gonna pay you to drift. It's one of the goofiest things around. It truly serves very little purpose. It's a very niche activity, but drifting has become very, very profitable. Perfect example of this is Ken Block. Ken Block is building an empire on drifting. It's crazy. He's done extremely well financially with the concept of drifting, right? Very, very important to understand and grasp, right? What else? So basically you have that as well. The other thing that is important to understand, and this is really important to understand for modern American politics, is drifting is incredibly destructive to the involved components, specifically the wheels and the tires, right? You have to constantly replace them. Well, in modern American politics, you can definitely see this with Donald Trump. He has used people as his tires and wheels, right? And so while he's been throwing his administration sideways, absolutely moving forward, he has definitely moved our economy forward, and he has moved this nation forward. Our unemployment is ridiculously low. The stock market is through the roof, right? And there are many other indicators crime is down. There's the vector is we are in a direction going forward with magnitude right? And boy, I will tell you right now, Donald Trump has sure heck mastered drifting. He has got his whole, his whole workforce has turned that sucker sideways, right? But what's being burned off as Donald Trump drifts? People, his own people, right? So so Donald Trump is drifting his cadre of employees, right? That serve him, and he is really burning them up like tires. You can see this, right? It's very, very clear. And you see a very constant, specific use of people as a resource. It's pretty incredible. I've really never seen any president. There really has never been a president like Trump. Not even remotely, right? So it's important to understand that. Andrew Yang is also going to need to learn about drifting in unison. Drifting in unison is its own art form. It is not easy to do. The other thing that I want to talk about with drifting that is really specific to politics is the escalation. Okay, and what is the escalation of drifting? Well, it's mischievous, it's illegal, and it's legal. Right? It starts as mischievous, right? So right now in America, if you buy yourself an $80,000, if you buy yourself a Ford Mustang and drive, $40,000 Ford Mustang for $40,000, and then you drop $40,000 of equipment into that sucker, right, to make it drift, and you have an $80,000 Ford Mustang drifter, and then you just take it onto the streets. You go into your local, you go near your local city, right? If you drift that car around a corner, right, around another car, and you successfully go into the far lane, right, and let's say there's a half a dozen people around you, right, what you're going to see is people are just, that's going to be a story for everybody. You're going to be excited because you successfully drifted, and then the people that you pass, they're going to have a story to tell at their book club or, wherever they are next, right? And even, the local merchants are like, I saw somebody drift around the corner. It's mischievous, right? It's a little bit fun, right? But if you take your $40,000 Ford Mustang drift machine and you drift it into a $35,000 Nissan Murano, right? That's illegal. That's highly illegal, right? And now you are involved in a very uncool crime, right? Nobody's seeing it as mischievous. Nobody's telling a story about that at their book club, right? Like there's lawyers involved and law enforcement, right? So that is highly illegal, right? Now, we talked about Ken Block and Vaughn Geaton Jr., right? We have taken this crazy little side activity that exists within performance driving, right? And there's entire tracks, there's an entire industry that is devoted to legal drifting. People going onto legal tracks and drifting their cars legally, right? And boy, is that a perfect analogy for modern American politics, right? Because in modern American politics, the legal is obvious. Everybody gets that part, right? The illegal, we are seeing more and more leaders, wanting that brass ring, using illegal activities, and we see politicians go to jail every single year. American politicians. But the part that's interesting is that mischievous part, right? Where where people are really insulting each other. People are doing things that are against the rules, right? That are against the rules, right? But everybody just kind of hey, you got something done there. Oh, that's really interesting. When I think about this, I think about AOC's Green Deal, right? She was drifting with that. She's like, oh, let's take entire blocks of industries and just shut them down, right? These industries have existed for 150 years in America. We don't need them anymore, right? That's drifting. That is mischievous, right? And when and if that went wrong, oh my gosh, boy, you would definitely see a crash, just like an $80,000 Ford drift machine hitting a $35,000 Nissan Murano. It is my opinion that Andrew Yang should absolutely carefully study drifting in order to understand modern American politics, because it is a talisman that contains wisdom for modern American politics. The biggest truth of which is that, in the old days, politicians needed to have a vector. They needed a direction and they needed magnitude and they needed to have motion. Now you need a vector with style. You need a direction, you need magnitude, and you had better kick that thing out sideways because you have got to look visually stunning and you have got to be unabashedly cool. There's just no more time for anything else. It is my opinion that drifting is a pure, awesome talisman of wisdom, containing wisdom for modern American politics. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.